So we should start. We should start the session. The moderator for this session will be Professor James Calvin, the Vice President of Academic Affairs at KAUST. I think we have all connections now to the remote areas established. With that said, please.
Thank you. So I'd like to welcome you all to the Innovation and Entrepreneurship in Higher Education panel discussion, or what we've begun to call the Unlocking the Talent section of the program. Again, my name is Jim Calvin. I'll be acting as the moderator, and we're very pleased to have all of you here, both those of you who are in the audience and those of you who are joining us remotely from Princess Noor University, Al Faisal University, and King Fahd University of Petroleum and Minerals. Vision 2030 and its promise is a catalyst to rapidly expand the American-Saudi partnership to new frontiers in both the United States and Saudi Arabia. One of these frontiers will be the evolution of advanced economies. The future of all advanced economies will depend upon the success of the younger generation's ability to evolve with the remarkable technological changes that are happening around us. Education, of course, plays a pivotal role in preparing individuals to handle these changes, not only in providing technological education, but also in the ways of preparing individuals to unlock their ideas in entrepreneurial ways. This is not a new topic, however, but it is one that's received increased attention worldwide. The issues around this challenge are many and include the prioritization of one's academic careers, the adjustments in the curriculum, understanding of the innovation and commercialization cycles, and the recognition of the pitfalls that one can experience as part of the process. Today, we are very lucky to have with us leading experts from academia and the corporate world whose personal experiences and expertise make them excellent sources of insight and guidance. Our panelists are, starting from the one closest to me, Rafael Reif, who is the president of MIT, Surya Al-Qarashi, who is the president of Dar al-Hekmah University, Michael Crow, the president of Arizona State University, Tuba Tarekli, who is the co-founder and CEO of Katuf Al-Riyada Development Foundation, and Sonny Vu, who is a serial entrepreneur and the president and CTO of the Fossil Group. We have one last panelist who is Director of KFUPN, Khalid Al-Sultan, who is joining us remotely. So to begin the session, I've asked each of these individuals in the order that I've introduced them to give us some open remarks. Thank you.
Shall I start? So again, as was mentioned, my name is Rafael Reif. Just a couple of comments to tell you all. I understand the large majority of the audience are students. The students on our campus are very entrepreneurial, very much into innovation. And because of their demand, because of their request, we created a whole set of programs for those interested in innovation and entrepreneurship to practice their skills. We have a minor on innovation entrepreneurship, so anybody can major on any discipline and minor in innovation. But also we have internal competitions about business plans and so forth for students to compete and come up with ideas that may potentially lead to the creation of a company. One interesting observation is that through years of doing this, the students successfully come up with terrific ideas through competitions and other ways, and they eventually, when they graduate, most of them when they graduate, quite a few of them start their companies before, but most of them when they graduate, they start their companies and they go more or less where the funding leads them. Many of them start companies near Boston, near Cambridge, Massachusetts. Many of them go to the West Coast. Some of them go to New York. But I've noticed some years back that many terrific ideas that come out of their creativity, their innovation, were not able to find their way to the marketplace. And the majority did, but some of them didn't. And those who didn't, I thought, were ideas that really could make a big difference to society, to all of us. And studying that very carefully, I learned that what was going on in the last 5 to 10 years, mostly 5 years, and maybe Sonny can comment on that because he's in that heart and soul in that space, that many ideas that required intense capital equipment funding, or that had a little bit of they needed a longer runway, had a longer term perspective for investment return, could not find the funding outside. In the last 5-7 years, it looked like ideas that were in a digital space that did not require capital equipment or new development. Ideas that are the best example I can give you are app-like ideas. They got funding, and those that produce tangible products, potential tangible products, could not get the funding because it took too long to develop those. And so what we did to not discourage students from coming up with ideas like that, we created a new incubator of sorts, which is where we invested some funds, MIT did, but other investors invested funds as well. And this is just to support, to start seed companies that are thinking of making an impact on society with return on investment, but with a longer runway. So instead of expecting returns in 5-7 years, the expectation is like in 10 years to produce returns. And that has made a difference. We just started that. We announced that a few months ago. We are open the doors right now. In fact, these days, we just did it a couple of weeks ago. The labs are being opened. That supports not just the funding, but offers equipment support, mentor support, and so forth. And just opening the doors, we got over 2,000 or so companies applying to get into that. We call that the engine, and you can go on the web and find it. So the point that I'm making is that we are responsive to the students' needs. They want to do that kind of stuff. They want to learn about it. Some of them decide to try that and try the business plan, and they decide that's not for them. Many of them decide that's for them. And we try then to encourage them and to help them on their way through MIT to learn what they want to learn, and if they want to start a company, to go to the open marketplace or go through the engine and start whatever it is they want to explore in life.
Hello. Yeah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Wa-salatu wa-salamu ala Sayyid al-Mursaleen. Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. I'm very honored to be sitting before you, and I believe the best ideas will come from such audience, our creative youth, mashallah, tabarakallah. So I'd like to say that in order for any academic institution to support its students, it should start with its mission. And therefore, our mission at Dar al-Hikmah states that it produces, or we graduate accomplished women leaders and entrepreneurs. So when it sits in the mission, it's easier to trickle it down to the courses that the students have to study. And in order for us to also infuse creativity and innovation, I made sure that we have a creativity week for all newcomers, so they unleash their creative juice and they're able to understand how they should tap into their creative mindset. We also work on embedding entrepreneurship training as a course, and also using companies that would come and give them training that would yield a project at the end that they would have to pitch for, and sometimes they bring businessmen to see those projects. Now, another important factor is creating the entrepreneurial mindset, which goes along with the entrepreneurial training that the students have, which also, coupled with excellent communication skills, would guarantee that the person would have the proper training and proper infrastructure that would be able to generate ideas that are usable across disciplines. So we encourage the students to work in teams across programs and across disciplines and across schools. And this actually provides the students with different skill set, so each one would help the other. And I'm very honored to say that 5 of my dear students are part of the STEAM competition next door. And I'm really happy to be sitting before you, my dear students, and the students of the Kingdom. Thank you so much.
Michael Crow, Arizona State University. First, let me say that one of the things that we've recognized at the university is that our 75,000 students that we have on campus with us are definitively the smartest, most innovative, most creative individuals in the institution. Not to take away from our faculty, but our faculty are not freshly minted, technology-enabled, internet-powered, completely transformed human beings the way our undergraduate students are and our graduate students. And so what we've tried to do is to create an environment for them wherein they can be as expressive entrepreneurially as they possibly can be, while at the same time pursuing their studies. So we have created a range of opportunities for them. We have entrepreneurship courses in all 17 of our colleges, including non-technical colleges, because entrepreneurship is not a function only of science and technology or engineering-oriented training. And so we've built that curricular platform for everyone. In addition, we've created opportunities through what we call I-courses, where students solve very complicated problems brought in from the outside using their entrepreneurial energy and are able to, in a sense, keep the results of their work for themselves, keep the product of their inventiveness for themselves. All intellectual property, by the way, that's developed by students at the university outside of funded graduate students remains the property of the student going forward. We've also created an opportunity through a thing we call the Edson Center for Student Entrepreneurship, where students compete for funding for their companies, and then their companies are actually operated through incubator spaces while they're still students. We run a startup boot camp. We run a series of centers on each campus called Changemaker Centers, where any student with any idea can walk into a Changemaker Center and then find the resources and the assets to help their idea to move forward. Entrepreneurship for us is not, again, just companies, but it can be the formation of companies, the formation of social enterprises, the formation of solutions for educational issues and other kinds of challenges. All of these things have been worked together so that now our estimate is that we're spinning out about 500 new enterprises per year from our students. And many of them are moving forward, securing funding, advancing their ideas, securing funding for their company, for their not-for-profit, for their social enterprise, for their solution regimen. And so this has just become a part of our overall culture. And so it's a part of how we operate everything that we do. I guess the last thing that I would add is that we have large numbers of contests around entrepreneurial ideas where students compete against each other with their ideas in hackathons, in specific technology solutions, fairs, and all kinds of other things that are going on. And what we try to do is to provide for students lots of space, lots of support, lots of places to get things done. We've created multiple maker centers where students can have access to devices, tools, machines, design capability, laser cutting tools, and so forth to build their solutions and to move forward. And we're now finishing some residence halls that have these maker centers built into them as a part of the living quarters for 24/7 inventiveness and discovery in certain areas. And so overall, these things have proven to be very powerful for our students who are producing, literally unbelievable outcomes every week.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Salaam Alikum. First of all, thank you so much for having us, and I'm such an honor being among you all. I'm an entrepreneur, a Saudi of foreign origin, and I'm very proud to be on call with Al Faisal, Princess Noura University, and KFUPM, Dr. Khalid. Assalamu alaikum. Three things came to my mind when I was listening to your programs. I wish I was back being 18 and was applying to a college these days. Unfortunately, due to lights, I can't see all the bright faces of the students up in the audience, but I can assure you, you are in better era than we were back in the 90s. And we are very blessed because we are a generation that is aware of everything and anything that is going on. I run an organization called Kutuf, and I had to build this organization because simply people did not understand what it means to be an entrepreneur in Saudi Arabia. People thought making billions, buying real estate, trading in land and stocks, that meant you're an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur is a person that adds value. And that's my simplest definition of what an entrepreneur is. And in building that structure, we had to come up with innovative solutions where we leapfrog the mindsets of Saudi students that are coming in from abroad and from universities around the kingdom to devise them towards tech-enabled companies, because that's where we're supposed to go. And it's that simple. You know, we got so many things that are happening, Stack, Internet of Things, Industry 4.0, and so many things that we have to catch up to as talent and caliber. Yet, we are to devise a single company that's $1 billion in value from Saudi Arabia, that's from ground zero. And so that was concerning, and we had many programs, among which is the infamous accelerator, the only accelerator that actually seed funds in Saudi to date is Flat 6 Labs Jeddah, among with seed funds and mentoring programs. But the crucial thing that we found out is that students that go into entrepreneurship during or post, and we do accept students that are third year or fourth year in their universities and they have a mindset of starting their own companies, is resilience. You really want to get those grades, so you work damn hard. And in entrepreneurship, you have to work 10 times as hard as when you were a student. And that's the point that a lot of the generation did not get. They thought when you're your own boss, that meant you have freer weekends, you have less time managing teams, and you can do whatever you want because nobody's watching you. It's the extreme opposite. As a student, your best opportunity right now is to co-found a team that you are comfortable with and do whatever you think will add value to the world. Where there is value, there is money. And when there is money, there is growth. Where there is growth, there is prosperity. Where there is prosperity, the rest trickles. And finding a solution to a problem that you're experiencing right now could be a $1 billion company later on. Kids at Airbnb, that's exactly what they did. Obviously, we're not going to encourage anyone to drop out of college. We at Kutuf do, so sorry. But, you know, we're not going to encourage you to do so. But do take the time to utilize your resilience DNA that you have now as a student and invest that in developing whatever is a solution that you think is best suitable for value creation and run after it 100%. There are far too many programs. Today, you have the unified portal, you have the e-government. So the point of having an excuse is over. Culturally, entrepreneurship is more trendier than being an employee. Currently, 10 years ago, nobody would have given a daughter to a guy who said, I run my own business. In Saudi now, when the guy says, I run my own business, everybody offers him a bride. So know that it's trendy. It's in, and for a good reason. 85% of Saudi students I surveyed have said that they want to be an entrepreneur at least once in their lifetime. And of that 85, over 60% have responded they want to be an entrepreneur over and over and over again. Serial entrepreneurship is taking off. We did the first Saudi 100 list back in 2009 for the highest impact 100 companies. And that list had 3 years of repeat companies. When we ran a similar list in 2013 to 2017 in our own premises in Kutuf, and we do research for JEDI and other global entrepreneurship development indexes, we found out that we have over 20,000 new Saudi entrepreneurs every year. Faces we don't necessarily recognize, names we never heard of, from places in Saudi I could not pronounce, and I'm a Saudi. So what's happening is great, and go along for the ride. The next 15 years is your time. Our time is here to mentor you, to support you, to fund you, and you know how to reach us. Man, you don't stop nagging us on Twitter, and we're so glad you don't. Don't give up, and as a dear friend says, always lean in, lean in, lean in. Thank you.
Merhaba. Salaam Alikum, Ismi Sonny, and English is definitely my better language, so I'll speak in that. It's really an honor to be here, especially with such a distinguished set of panelists here. I feel a bit of a misfit, literally and figuratively, because I'm really the product of an ecosystem and an educational system that embraced entrepreneurship. I started at MIT in the mid-90s, and I did drop out to start my first company, and I sold it. It was a language technology company. And then since then, I've started and sold other companies. Most recently, a company called Misfit Wearables, where we made wearable technology and sold it to Fossil Group, where I'm now working and leading much of the technology thinking there. But really, I just wanted to share with you two things, because we're talking about education and entrepreneurship. And I feel like there's a lot of there's a lot of views out there that, oh, it's, you got to drop out of school to be an entrepreneur, you got to be a rebel, and that's how you do it. And, I would really say, I would take kind of a contrarian view to that. I really feel that my years in school were some of the most valuable and powerful times, undergraduate and in graduate school at MIT. And I'd really just leave you with two things in terms of two takeaways on how best to use time in school, or if not in school, being able to set aside time to pursue two things that I found to be very, I think, key to my entrepreneurial narrative. It's two things. First is curiosity and wonder, and really just taking the time to explore and think laterally. A lot of times the solutions to the problems that we face in business and life, they're sitting right in front of our faces or to the side, but very near to us, and we just need to look to the left or to the right, and it's right there. And it just takes curiosity to drive that kind of problem solving that's very different. As they say about insanity, doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results, that's insanity, right? And so don't be insane, try something different. So maybe one takeaway could be to read a book on a topic that you've always been curious about or always thought about but never tried. So that's what I'm going to try to do this year, is read on things that I haven't really studied formally or done work in, but was always curious about. The second thing, and probably something that's a much more commonly spoken about topic in the entrepreneurial circles, is that of failure. Now, I do believe in Silicon Valley and part of the other parts of the tech world, failure is, I feel it's overly glorified. So I want to be clear, failing is not good. You should try not to fail. That is not a good thing to do. However, if you're able to create that space, if you're able to create that time, especially if you're in school, use that opportunity to be able to try things that you didn't think was possible, where you didn't think you could do. Because failure is a great educator. It's the best educator that I've ever had. And I believe it was Bill Gates who said that success is a terrible teacher because it makes people think they can just do it again every single time and succeed every time, and it's just not true. For every new startup that I've done, every founder who's starting new companies, they have to start all over again, and the odds are ridiculously low every single time. And so maybe they're a little bit better each time. And so using that time in school, or if at work you're able to set aside that time and space to do two things. One is how to wrestle with the fear of failure better, and how to learn from failure better. And I think if we can accomplish that, anyone who can do those two things, you've really putting yourself on a good track for entrepreneurship, to start something, to really make a difference. And so just want to leave you with those two things: foster that sense of curiosity and wonderment, and to learn better from failure and try not to fail.
Thank you. Well, now we're going to have our first true test of our technology, and we will try not to fail. And we'll bring on Rector Al-Sultan for KFUPN for his remarks.
Thank you, Jim. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, salam ala rasulullah, nabina Muhammad wa sahbihi ajma'in. Could you hear me? Could you see me?
Perfect.
So, Jim, thank you for inviting me to be with this distinguished panel, friends and colleagues. And I'd like to start by saying, number one, I am a son of an entrepreneur who 70 years ago left the central part of Saudi Arabia on a camel to Egypt, Palestine, Iraq, and India to left a mother, a wife, my brothers and sisters, and a whole family in a farm, and went to Egypt, Palestine, Iraq, and India to bring new ideas home. Very risky journey, but those group of people were truly entrepreneurs. So entrepreneurship is not a new area, in my opinion, to Saudi Arabia. We need to probably reteach entrepreneurship using the new ideas, new techniques, new ways of doing things, but I think the spirit is there. So I think it's imperative on our society, if we want to push entrepreneurship, is to accept failure. Not that we celebrate it, not necessarily that we would like to fail, but I think give our young generation a chance to fail and not to be reprimanded. And before I start a few remarks about innovation and entrepreneurship, let me tell you a little bit about the story at KFUPM. Back in 2005, for almost 4.5 decades, the university could only come up with 5 patents. And since then, today we're producing more than 100 patents a year registered in the US Patent Office. Last year, 115 was produced by our faculty and students, just to put us number 14 among academic institutions worldwide. And what's nice about that, 18% of our patents are produced by our great undergraduate and graduate students. So the potential is there. We have developed the right ecosystem for entrepreneurship and innovation. And we have what we call here the Haran Techno Valley, where we started out as an oil and gas centers, but later we expanded to downstream and then to energy, where we have centers of major companies in the field, but more importantly, we have a business incubator, an innovation center, entrepreneurship institute, and we're building state-of-the-art fast prototyping center to develop our students and faculty for developing their ideas and for proof of concept. I'm of the opinion that it's very important to teach the youth the entrepreneurship, but more importantly is that the society as a whole pushes for entrepreneurship. In my opinion, as long as there is an easy money out, probably entrepreneurship will not be popular. We see people making a lot of money out of real estate, just being an agent of an automobile company, and sometimes you make a lot of money by just bringing expat and, unfortunately, foreign laborers. I think that got to stop if we want to push our people to be more creative, more innovative, and to come up with ideas that my colleagues just said add value to the country and to the whole world. My colleagues mentioned curiosity, resilience, and I want to add a very important thing that the youth should have, in my opinion, persistence and passion. I think in order to accept failure, in order to try and spend the right time that my colleagues said, you need to be persistent and you need to love what you do. I don't think being an entrepreneur is an alternative for being an employee. It's something that comes from inside. And unless you have it, in my opinion, it's better to be an employee, because you cannot just choose to be an entrepreneur if you are not meant for that, if you cannot put the right time, the right effort, if you don't have the passion for that. But having said that, the way we do entrepreneurship at KFUPM is we don't think entrepreneurship is taught only to create your own company. We think the entrepreneurial spirit, entrepreneurial ideas that are important for entrepreneurs who start their own companies, but equally important for those who will be a public servant or working in the private sector, because they will always come up with new ideas, new ways of doing things. So in my opinion, it's equally important to train the youth on entrepreneurship, whether they want to start their own companies or they will end up be employees of companies or in the government sector. Few things, in my opinion, that are important to end with is that we need to be careful to make sure that the ecosystem, the right ecosystem built for our entrepreneurs. Sometimes the entrepreneur starts with a very good idea, but doesn't find the right support. So probably he will give up, not because he lacks the persistence or she lacks the persistence or the resilience or the curiosity or the passion, but he goes out or she goes out, doesn't find the right funding, or goes out and doesn't find the right prototyping center, or goes out and doesn't find the right rules and regulation that govern how fast he or she can register his or her company. So these are few things that we have to do collectively in Saudi Arabia if we want to push for this young generation to be entrepreneurs. Of course, there are, as all the panelists know and the audience, many ways of doing entrepreneurship and innovation if we want to put them together. And the Dutch model, the Boulder model, top-down approach, and the Silicon Valley bottom-up approach. But I think in every country, there will be a form or another for doing entrepreneurship. And in my opinion, that's not important. What's important is that we all work together with higher education institutions, R&D centers, government agencies, or the private sector, and of course to support those young students who are in college or just came out of college to make sure that they succeed in their endeavors. With that, I will end my note. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We're now going to move to the session of this event where we'll be asking for questions from the audience. And I'll go around the different locations asking for students to ask questions. But as students get prepared to do this, I think I'll take the privilege of asking the first question. And since this is meant to tie innovation and entrepreneurship with higher education, my question really is that there are examples of people who have come up with singular, remarkable ideas that are independent of their educational training. But from my perspective, a tremendous amount of really the progress in entrepreneurship that has accrued to every country that's been successful has been a result of people who have leveraged the quality of their education to give them ideas to be able to take them into the marketplace. And so, from my perspective, I would like to ask you about the role of prioritizing excellence in your technical education as a significant first step towards being a successful entrepreneur, and whether you think that that's an important message to send to students, or if you have a different view on the issue. So we'll just...
I can take a first comment on that. Definitely, if there is an existing platform of ideas and you have a new idea that fits into that platform neatly, which is typical example is an app, well, you can argue that perhaps why do you have to go 4 years in college? You have a great idea for an app. And that is true up to a point. But that gets saturated very quickly. I think there are two important things that you get in a university, in education, at a college institution. One is knowledge, which is tools. The more tools you have, the more ideas you can come up with, and the better ideas you come up with. So yes, maybe you only need one tool to come up with a great idea, and maybe that would be the most successful one. But typically, you better, if you're going to fix a car, you may want to have quite a few tools available to you, and education provides you tools. That's number one. Number two, the other thing not to underestimate is that it's very rare to come up with a superb idea on your own. Normally, it happens in groups. Normally, you just meet with other students, you meet with peers, and you engage and discuss and brainstorm. And the best ideas, I'm going to go through my mind to quite a few of them, they come up in groups of people. And you find those peers, you find those groups in a college. So for those two reasons, yes, it is possible that you can do something amazing on your own without much education, but it's really very rare.
I also wanted to add that preparing the youth at a young age is also a very good process to generate ideas and to help them think innovatively. I met a CEO in Amsterdam that hosts 6-year-olds every Tuesday and takes them around, and then they have lunch together. He shows them around his facility, talks to them about the idea behind his business, and then they go home. So this process, if it was repeated by several CEOs, and they find time to do that for the youth, I think you would have a different world.
I think what I would add is that don't limit your thinking. The more you limit your thinking to believing that somehow your technical expertise will be the means by which your idea or your company will get off the ground, the lower your probability of success. You really need the broadest exposure possible. You need historical context, economic awareness. You need to be able to think at multiple levels and in multiple ways. And that means to be technically grounded in whatever your area happens to be, but not to limit yourself to that. And if you look at the great entrepreneurs, the great ideas that have moved forward, these were individuals who knew the concept of time and the concept of space, where you were in time and space to be able to move your idea forward, all of which goes beyond the constraints and the limits of your technical training, so be as broadly aware as you possibly can be.
Okay, well,
If I
this,
may-
sorry, go
sorry.
ahead.
Yes. Do you want to?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
fine.
I would like to take it on in a practical manner, if I may. So if I were a student at a university and I'm studying mechanical engineering, and I'm going to make out the best engine for whatever function that I want to do, and that uses the least fuel consumption, that is the most highly efficient, etc. And at the same time, there's a kid who's 12 years old in Kenya who's done a far more superior engine than I could have done, because he's seen a problem and the way he visualizes life, because he's a genius, is different. Those are extremely rare cases. The practicality of the situation is, if you're a student and you have technical know-how, and you have all these IPs and patents, does the world really need that invention? Are you listening to the world's problems properly enough to use your technical acumen to find a solution that can deliver value, that people are willing to part with their money in order to buy, by which you're going to create a value chain? And that's the whole problem most students have that I interview, and they come to me, I have this great product, I have this great idea, I have this great solution. Great, but what does it actually do? Is there something else that's an alternative product that's solving that problem right now? So even though technical education is extremely paramount, there are even though there are rare cases where a physician can find an agricultural solution and a farmer can find a healthcare solution. So it's not necessarily bound by, as you rightly said, it's a technical acumen where you look for problem solving, and that's a skill not all students have, even if they go to university. That's something that you develop from your inner being, and as Professor Khalid said, it's something that comes from inside, and that's the value that we need to capture. Somehow discover those people that are willing to spend those 100 hours till they find that right one piece of cog that's going to make the whole machine work.
Okay. Well, right now what I'd like to do is turn the question and answers over to the students, and starting by here in the audience. So we've got microphones on either end here for students, or we can pass the microphone to the student as well. I've got a hand up here in the front.
Hello? Okay. So my name is Athir, and my question is to anyone who would like to answer. Would you agree that encouraging innovative thinking amongst faculty members would have a positive effect on innovative thinking among students? And if so, how would you encourage innovative thinking among the faculty members? One note I'd like to add is that sometimes innovative thinking or innovative ideas are unfortunately killed by faculty members. So that is why I'm asking this question.
I can start. I think probably on that topic, all of us will be in violent agreement, but let's see. Of course, I mean, you want faculty to be innovative because you want that to be stimulating, and you want your ideas to be stimulated and improve when you interact with your faculty member. But you know, when I went to college, where I went to college, that was not the case. So I think I understand what you're saying, and I can easily imagine the situation here. However, don't let that slow you down. I think that's not the ideal situation, but you should pursue what your interests are. If you have innovative ideas and you don't see that receptivity among your faculty members, but you see with other students, pursue the idea anyway. So your point is well taken. You want to, normally you want to hire faculty who are innovative, who think in an innovative way. And very often, more often than not, faculty who like to teach and faculty who like to do research, they think in an innovative way, or you would like them to. But if that is not the case, don't let that slow you down.
Thank you.
Holly, would you like to join in?
I'd like just to comment on your earlier question. I think what we do in the undergraduate here at KFUPM, we claim to give the student undergraduate experience, which is knowledge, skills, values, and attitude. And we think that the latter three are even more important for entrepreneurship than the knowledge. We think the skills, the attitudes, the values are the ones that prepare somebody to be an entrepreneur. And let me tell you just, we all remember Thomas Edison, when we think about electricity. And we remember Alexander Graham Bell when we think about the telephone. These are the ones who invented them. But when it comes to Microsoft, we remember a leader who is Bill Gates. Or when it comes to iPhone, we remember Steve Jobs, who helped coming up with this great machine that we use today. So the idea today, as some of my colleagues mentioned, the panel, is not an inventor. It's the team that needs somebody to lead that team who does not necessarily have the technical background, but have the spirit, has the vision, and how he knows how to collect the right expertise in the team. So having said that, I just want to answer the second question. I think very important for our faculty to be innovative themselves. And as a matter of fact, at KFUPM here, part of the reason why we encourage our faculty to register their patents and go into this innovation center is that we've found out that professors who started not only publishing but registering their patents, their performance in the classroom would be different. The way they deal with students would be different. So they will be more open-minded, they will be more encouraging, and they will have even more passion for new ideas. So yes, preparing faculty to be innovative themselves, to accept this new spirit in the youth, I think is of extreme importance. Thank you.
Okay. Well, maybe since we have the KFUPM on the microphone, we could check to see if there are questions from any of the students listening in at KFUPM. If not, we may have caught you by surprise, but I will come back to you, so you can be thinking. Sonny?
Hello. All right. I just had a quick comment to the gentleman at KFUPM and lady in the audience. It's kind of related. On the one side, it seems a bit of an irony or kind of a non-starter to say, come on, be more innovative. You know, like, I mean, that itself, there's something not resonant with that kind of approach. I think a lot of it's going to be more about inspiration, inspiring people to be innovative, to creating the space for people to fail so that they can be innovative. And to the lady in the audience, I would just say, you know, on the one side, use the school time, use this space to be able to try these new things. And on the other side, I would say, you know, forget about what the faculty think. Just go for it. You know, we don't get ahead. I mean, a lot of the misfits in this world who have made a difference didn't do so by following the rules or asking for permission. Asking for permission, the answer is always no. So, or usually no. That's been my experience. So, I just kind of stopped doing that. And in fact, I think not to toot MIT's horn too much, but I think they've done a great job of that, because I believe there's now an award at MIT that awards people for breaking the rules. It's a $250,000 prize, I think from the Media Lab, that basically is awarded to the person who, what I think it was like, took a personal risk to make a difference in the world, basically breaking the rules. Now they have a prize for that. So, I think there's something to that. I'm not saying just open rebellion towards your faculty or anything, but, there's something to pursuing that curiosity and pursuing something that you might actually fail in, and it's okay.
Well, let's see if there might be a question from Al Faisal University.
Yes, hello.
Yes.
My name is Samantha. I am a College of Business student, fresh graduate with the degree in Business Administration and concentration in marketing. So as we all know, with high risk comes high reward, and of course that's very true for entrepreneurship. My question specifically, while knowing that 90% of entrepreneurship projects fail within the first 3 years, and 74% of them because of kind of premature growth. With regards to mitigating risk for entrepreneurs, what are some steps that entrepreneurs can take to ensure as much as possible that what they're going into, that the projects they're doing, they're able to decrease the risk as much as possible, and not only that, to make sure that the steps they're taking, not only at the beginning of the entrepreneurial project, but throughout it, of these first 3 years, that they're able to keep it sustainable throughout however long they want it to keep it going for.
So I always get this question of how do I de-risk my project? And it's a very simple approach for entrepreneurs. It's a bottom-up approach for the new generation, and mainly saying this product is fit for market and driving it in with 20 million backing from the government and hoping it works out and the packaging is great and we did everything. We got the big four telling us the business plan is going to work out. Rarely works out these days. What really works out is for you to start small and grow a snowball effect. It's you have a solution that's really going to work. You have the passion for it. You have the patience for it. You have the team for it. You have the vision for it. And you really want to take this to market. You're dying to take it to market. That's when I can say, all right, you're at a stage where we can now talk about de-risking. If you don't have those 5 elements, there's no reason for you to start doing it in the first place. So once you have the team and everybody's on board and everybody's backing you up, then you have that product, you have to test it with the people that you have accurately profiled. Those are not your buddies, those are not the people that are going to tell you, oh, I love you, honey, and I love the stuff that you made. No, those are the people that are going to tell you, I hate you, but I love your product. It really works. And those are the people you really need to look out for. And that takes time and effort. You need to do it stealth mode, and you need to go out there and test it. And the most important test, and this is why I hate freemium models here in the Gulf, is to see whether or not people are parting with their money while they're buying it. You have to test your price ranges. You have to test everything before you go larger scale. This is what has worked for our startups. We call this phase the minimum viable product phase. Every book writes about it, but actually people don't spend enough time building that minimum viable product phase. They jump it. They do like 1 week testing and they're like, yeah, we're ready to go, and then they write this business plan and they're pitching already. It really takes time. You have to try risk, and there's something called a risk plan by always doing the worst case scenario. So if you're sourcing materials, what if my materials are late 9 months? What do I do? Everything that you do, you have to go through that test period, and that's the one way to de-risk it. And as rightly my colleague said, you have to listen to the voice of others. There isn't a single invention in this world that was built by one person without asking everyone around them. It's a team effort. It's your consumers, consumer mindset, and the design thinking and creative thinking behind it that has to be tested over and over and over again. And by the way, you can see Mohammed Al-Abbar has invested $1 billion in noon.com that was supposed to open in Jet. And it did not happen. We're now ending May, and now he's saying November 2017. Maybe it will happen. Why? It's the biggest e-commerce platform. Logistics centers are ready. He doesn't have the team to run it. It's that simple. It's not about money. It's not about the investment. It's all about grounds up.
Sonny, you must have had personal experience with these challenges.
Mitigating, so first company I did, we got an awesome team, built a really cool product, couldn't sell it. A second company, we kind of built a product, tried to sell it, started to sell, made more of it. Third time around, we said, that's it. Let's sell the product, and if anyone buys it, then we will scurry like hell to make it. And I would say that latter, it took 3 startups to figure that out, but much more capital efficient that way. There's a thing, it's called crowdfunding. I think everyone knows about that. It's very in vogue these days. It's still an incredibly useful tool. Highly recommended to folks. You don't have to crowdfund things. You could also just start selling your product. By the way, that is your main role as an entrepreneur, by the way, is sales. And it's not just selling a product, you're trying to get investors to invest in you when they shouldn't be investing in you because you're incredibly high risk. You're trying to convince the media to talk about you when there's nothing to talk about. You're trying to convince people to join you to work at half their current pay with 0 job security. That is your main role, no matter what your background is. But that said, back to the very first question, technical excellence or not, do you focus on that? And I say yes. Yes, be excellent at your craft. Be excellent at what you do. It's an anchor and builds confidence. I think it's a great anchor for, especially if you're going to eventually be learning how to do sales. I digress. But back to, the model of selling it first and then making it later. That there's something to it. I think there's a wisdom to follow. There's a wise way to do it. I'm not just advocating blindly, fake it till you make it, but if trying to. Well, yeah, it can work, but the point is, it does get a bad rap too. So that's my only point: is sell it first.
Okay, so maybe we can move on to another university, and we'll cycle around again. So, Princess Noor University, are there any questions there?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you're all having a pleasant day. My name is Salaam AlGhamdi. I'm from the College of Languages and Translation from Princess Noor University. I'd like to thank you for this wonderful, informative meeting. So my question is, when we look at the succeeding SMEs example, especially in the US, most of them start after a couple of years experience in the workplace. In Saudi Arabia, however, 30% of SMEs exit the market during the first 2 years, not only because of the lack of financial support, but also because the youth are pushed into entrepreneurship with 0 experience. So my question is, wouldn't it be a better approach if students were directed to institutions and government environments which would give them the required experience so they will start their projects with minimum risk, armed with practical experience rather than theoretical, which they acquired much of during their university years? Thank you for your time.
Well, the answer is yes. I think what we try to do is, if you're a student interested in entrepreneurship, look, first of all, students are interested in different things, and we try to match their interests, not just academically with coursework and so forth, but giving some practical training in the discipline in which they want to pursue. Whether that's projects during the year or summer projects, or during January, we have a month in which students can go and participate in programs and projects at or outside MIT. If you want to be an entrepreneur, we strongly encourage and we try to arrange for students to engage in startup companies. Just there are many of those in the area, so they can spend some time in experiencing that. That accomplishes 2 goals. One is they realize whether that's for them or not. That's number 1. And number 2, they basically learn what are the issues and how to address them. you need to have a little bit, you don't need to have it, but it's helpful if you do have an experience doing something like that. It prepares you a little bit better. So that is what I've seen work best. I don't know that there is a theoretical way for you to learn entrepreneurship. Of course, we teach it, but that doesn't guarantee success. I think the best approach that we have seen that works is just to spend some time doing it with others, not your own company, just engage with another one. How easy it is to do that in the kingdom? Probably not so much. I don't know enough to know and recommend that for the kingdom because I don't know that that happens here. But in a place in which there is plenty of that, I strongly recommend to pursue that for a year or two before you launch your own company.
Is there another question here from the audience here at KAUST? Yes.
Salaam Alikum. Hi everyone. My name is Basel Gahtani. I'm a mechanical engineer student from Jeddah University. My question is, how can we make a cooperation between universities and big companies to take an advantage as a student of a practical experience from the company's experts? And by this, my opinion, by this cooperation, I think the students will be able to think outside the box and the box. Thank you.
So one of the things we've been able to do in that space is we've built relationships with companies where companies give us problems that they're either tired of, they don't believe that they have the energy to solve them, or they are looking for a completely unique solution. We call these I projects. We've done hundreds of them. Clusters of students then take the project idea, the problem idea from the company. They then work on that together as a team. They then begin interacting with the company, and what we found is that in many cases, the entire team is then ultimately employed by the company, or they pick the best players on the team that are then employed by the company. And so this innovative process then works both ways. The students are able to take something that the company is unable to solve on their own. They're able to then derive a solution which gives them tremendous experience and insight and perspective. And then the other thing that happens, which is difficult, is that the company realizes that these young students, 20 years old, 21 years old, 22 years old, have new ideas and new perspectives and new ways of solving things, and this becomes a kind of a virtuous cycle. And so we've done so many of these, and it's become so popular that it's a common way now for students then to leave with ideas to form companies, to go work with this company, to work in new ways, and it's just a very powerful process that has been very effective for us.
Because Dar al-Hikmah is a design hub in terms of expertise and student innovative ideas, I think we have a lot of companies reach us to engage in student projects to generate the sort of new ideas they need. And so I think there is a role for any university to engage the private sector or public sector in projects for students that would form a foundation for future collaborations as these students graduate, because a lot of our students also make it to these companies as, you know, after internships or after these projects. So I think there's a role for universities, but I believe your question was beyond universities.
Well, I think we've got a very patient student at Al Faisal University that's been up there waiting to ask a question that we should reward her patience. So.
Hi, my name is Rima Matab. I'm a College of Business student, and I just graduated with a degree in marketing. I have two questions. So in many cases, examples for entrepreneurship that have been given to me in class were Google and Apple. And how can we make entrepreneurship relatable to the youth of Saudi through our courses? And then my other question is, some students start off their businesses while they're still in school. What's the best way to balance between school and starting their own businesses? And how can an institution aid them in both their academics and their professional career? That's all.
Okay, well, that's quite a complicated question. I think Arizona State does all that simultaneously.
Well, in the second part of your question, I mean, we provide incubator space, we provide funding for companies, we provide competitive resources, we provide a range of things to allow students to be able to pursue their studies while they pursue their companies at the same time. So that's just a part of how we're doing it and the way that we're doing it. I think that overall it's just the creation of an environment where entrepreneurial energy can be activated within students. One of the things that we have are Change Maker Central facilities where students can just walk in and have their ideas. They begin working on their ideas with other students. Their ideas are then evaluated. We run student ideas through startup boot camps where they can get a sense of the value of their idea, the quality of their idea, and then continue to hone their idea like we've heard from others. And so it's just a part of the university creating an environment where you can take your idea and move it forward, and that's something that we found to be very productive.
If I may? Sorry. Because she is asking in relevance to Saudi Arabia, and we take in students that are from universities into our cohorts, and they attend our accelerator from 5 to 9 or 5 to whenever they want to go to sleep. What we have done is we reserve 2 seats in our accelerator for university students that we select based on their ideas, marketability, and scalability, and their way of actually forming the team around it. And most of our student body teams are either in their 3rd year or 4th year. They have maximum 12 months to graduation. And we do present them to investors with the note that the student will be full-time dedicated to the company. On the first part of your question, entrepreneurship samples relatable to Saudi, I think that's a community effort. I don't think we're going to get any Steve Jobs or Bill Gates soon in Saudi Arabia unless we start buying from our own people. And I mean that in the literal sense of creating sales for Saudi entrepreneurs. You have to understand that the amount of imports to Saudi Arabia outweigh our exports at least 10 to 1 today in the non-oil sectors. And we as Saudis have to get used to buying things from our Saudi entrepreneurs in order to build them up into companies that are relatable as role models that we will teach. You'll be happy to know that Babson University Global is doing 10 business cases on Kutuf entrepreneurs as we speak, and you will be getting them all across the kingdom as case studies. But that's not the point. The point is, how do we build pillars of business society from ground up, from ages that are college student age, and that's by supporting them, by buying from them. Unless we part with our money to purchase, we're not going to create any entrepreneurs. And that goes same to our investors and same for our R&D labs. We have to provide that level of investment to the Saudi entrepreneurs.
I'd like to go back to KFUPM, both because I think that Rector Al Sultan, as a leader of education in Saudi Arabia, can comment somewhat about the most recent question, as well as see if there are any other students there who might have questions that they might like to have asked.
Thank you, Jim. I have a comment about the last 2 questions, and then one of our students has a question too. Okay. So just regarding the cooperation with industry, we have about 20 big companies in our campus, and from time to time they bring questions and problems to be solved by our students, and they keep presenting these problems just like what we hear from our colleagues in Arizona State University. And they are doing a lot of mentoring also for our entrepreneurs. So this push-pull model is working well for us. But also on training students from other universities, we have announced a program which we call the 2030 Leaders, where rather than just train KFUPM students on entrepreneurship, we have announced this program for students that graduate from other 30 universities in Saudi Arabia, as well as students graduating from the custodian of the 2 Holy Mosque scholarship program, where the student, about our selectivity is about 1 out of 50. So for every 100 that apply, we select 2. These students will be on our campus for 10 months. They will get a lot of training. They also live in our campus, and they get a lot of training on entrepreneurship and mentoring, and they will come up with their own business plan, and they will be linked with a businessman who eventually, hopefully, will share and will have an equity in that program. So far, we have about 60 students, and we have a lot of businessmen interested in the idea. So we think that this program will grow and will serve other university students when they would like to taste the entrepreneurship education in KFUBIM. We have one student, Jim, who would like to share his ideas and has a question. Please.
Salaam Alikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Raise your hand.
Salaam Alikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. My name is Ali Saeed. I am a finance and economics student at KFUPM. And I am engaged as well in the Entrepreneur Institute. As you are a student, one of the most important educational institute in Middle East, our duty is to lead industrial and economic development procession in Saudi Arabia. So my question is, as future entrepreneur, also leaders, how we can use the geographic location and economic situation to be pioneers in entrepreneur and as well leaders. Thank you.
So I believe the question was about how we can take advantage of the local opportunities here in an exceptional way. And I think that obviously turns to the local experts on the panel to provide the advice here. So Tuba?
Well, I'll give you a very simple perspective on this. And I was in the Medina region just last week with their Economic Council and looking into opportunities for developing Medina. And it was a very simple question. I asked him, okay, we have had at least 100 companies register for Umrah tourism, but have you ever had any company register for educational tourism, healthcare tourism? The services are there, but is anyone bringing in a tourist who wants to learn about Islamic architecture, who simply wants to learn about Medina cuisine, who simply wants to get their wedding done in Medina? You know, marrying in the presence of the Prophet is a big thing for us, by the way. And they were like, no, it's extremely simple ideas. And I was asking, not as matter of factly, I was just kidding because I thought there would be like 100. And they said, no, there is 0. So the conventional businesses even have not been innovated at the level of Saudi Arabia. We're so fast to travel and seek premium services elsewhere in the world, even in close proximity in GCC without naming the countries. But when we come back to Saudi, we're not developing those services. Go by Jeddah today, which is a Friday, you'll find half the streets are still filled with their waste. It's because people don't take note that we're not supposed to put our waste on a Friday when there's no municipality. The simple solution is a waste collection company that works on weekends from the private sector, right? And it doesn't exist. So what are we doing, or what are we missing on the footprint of the basics is far too many across all sectors that we're focusing on becoming Bill Gates or Steve Jobs. Let's get back to basics. Let's take care of our basics. We need at least a dozen schools that give sport education today, and we have the Commission for Olympics. We need at least a dozen schools that teach our kids to be makers and innovators. We don't have them. We don't have retail spaces that open for what I call co-op stores, pop-up stores, in the numbers that are needed by the society. We have no payment gateway solution that was generated from the entrepreneurs in Saudi Arabia. We have it from the government, Sadat and others, but every solution that is extremely simple and required is not being done at the basic level. But today, last 7 months, we have seen so many startups that are happening at the basic business. So the good news is we've realized it and we're fixing it. So now we have food trucks, now we have maintenance services, now we have so many mobile businesses, laundry collection, so we're getting there. But the opportunity is too huge to miss. So in my point, look for what's missing that you see elsewhere in the world and is not being done here. To become an industrial leader, China had to copy, and then innovate it, right? So I don't mind copying as long as it's a great copy.
Another thing I think there's a role for also businessmen or big companies to share what they need or what they're importing, so other entrepreneurs can be able to get that product and do it from Saudi to Saudi. I was present at about 10 years ago in an Aramco setup where His Excellency Minister Khalid Al-Falih was telling the audience, I have these things that need to be manufactured that I'm getting from abroad. Can you do something about this? These are the things I need for my company. So similar forums should take place, and also young entrepreneurs need to be present so they could start on their businesses. The other thing is to cater for that particular situation, we partnered with Lausanne University to start the hospitality management training as a master's degree for our students. And I think this is how we should think local, but also create industry through the training of our students. So it starts with education, it starts with knowledge, it starts with skill sets training, and then, innovation will be coupled with that, and great ideas will come out of it.
May I just add one very quick comment? I think one of the factors that we're missing is economic awareness from the students. When we realize we don't produce most of our medicine, and most of it is important, and we need the independence of food, medicine, military equipment, whatever are the sectors. Economic awareness, no matter what your major is your duty as a citizen. You need to realize what the country needs and to be able to produce that. You may not be the right person to produce it, like Steve Jobs. There was always Wozniak. Sorry, I always forget his last name. And you need to find the person who is your adaptable partner in order to create that solution. But economic awareness is a fundamental issue, and I think it should be a lesson taught across all disciplines of education.
Unfortunately, we are nearly at the end of our time that's been allotted to us. So what I would like to just ask for one last question. I'll check first if there's a question from Princess Noor University.
My name is Mahal Khalifa. I'm from College of Pharmacy at Princess Noor University. And here in Saudi Arabia and around the world, we are encountering a rapid digital transformation in almost all sectors, energy, education, and health, where technology is slowly replacing human workforce. So my question is, how are your organizations planning to cope with this transformation? What can we learn from that? And how will this have an impact on innovation and entrepreneurship? Thank you.
Actually, I think that turns out to be an excellent closing question, because it ties very much to some comments about retraining that occurred this morning. And so maybe I'll start with you, and we'll go to the academic university presidents to have them respond to this question.
Well, you're asking a very important question. I think what we are trying to do, and I think every institution is trying to cope with this, what we're trying to do is figure out how do we retrain the existing workforce. I think in the kingdom, quite frankly, I think the situation may be less dramatic. I think it's more about preparing the human capital of this country to a very rapidly moving economy. But in economies like the United States and quite a few other places, there is real serious job displacement. It is an issue that perhaps some people said the US should have predicted that and should have prepared for that, but this is where we are. As fast as we can, we need to retrain people for the jobs of the future and the present. And that means lots of activities, lots of training in the area of computation at large. That is the reality of the day. It is a very serious issue for the US, but the best we can do is just get to work really hard and fast to retrain massive numbers of people in the jobs that are being opening today, every day.
I think what I would add is that technology is always disruptive. Technology has always created uncertainty in the workforce. Technology always will. Technological change is by its very nature sociologically and culturally disruptive. The response to that needs to be the universities and others beginning to think about lifelong education, the engagement with a person through their entire life, the creation of individuals who have the capacity to master the process of learning so they can learn anything, master the process of learning so they can adapt to anything, and then doing that at various levels throughout the society. That requires all of us, including within the universities itself, to be innovative, including using technologies, including replacing some people and then empowering other people. And so it's a process that can net be positive, but only if it's engaged with the understanding that there's no stopping, there's no slowing down, there's no, oh, we don't have to increase the learning outcomes and so forth. That's not going to happen.
Well, I want to thank everybody for their participation. Before we thank our speakers, I would like to apologize to all the students who've clearly prepared questions that we're not going to have time to be able to have answered. I really appreciate your commitment and participation in this event, and it's really been a great honor to have you join us. But let us now please thank all our speakers for their time. Thank you all very much.
Long day. Yes. Thank you for all this. Nice to see you. Long day, I know. That's okay. Okay, we're getting close to the end of our event day, but we have still two very important sessions. We have now the roundtables for innovation enablers, which will happen in the next building, again, building 19. But before we head there, I'd like to introduce, I'd be honored actually to introduce also Dr. Ghassan Al-Sulaiman, the governor of the General Authority for Small and Medium Enterprises. Dr. Sulaiman is one of the national qualified experts and is leading a number of corporate boards and served as chairman for Ghassan Sulaiman Group, Ghassan Ahmed Sulaiman Furniture Trading, IKEA, Venture Capital Bank Bahrain, Venture Capital Saudi Arabia, the Development of Cities Central Company, the Kayanat Corporation, Rama, the Development Company, Marina, the Qutuf Leadership for Projects Development. He has a doctorate in strategic management from the United Kingdom and an MBA from the United States. He is also a former lecturer in strategic management at the University of Maastricht and in the master's program in business administration. He has many contributions and former memberships in many institutions. He was chairman in Savola Foods Company, chairman of the Chamber of Commerce and Industry in Jeddah, chairman of the Small and Medium Enterprises Chamber of Commerce and Industry in Jeddah, chairperson of the Committee of Economic Development in Mecca, chairman of the Organized Management of the International Economy Forum in Jeddah, and the head of the Saudi Malaysian Business Council, Turkish Saudi Business Council, board member of the World Association for New Muslims, and board member of the Holy Quran's Memorization International Organization. Please join me in thanking Dr. and welcoming him on the stage. Thank you.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على خاتم الأنبياء المرسلين. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to first thank you all, especially our American friends who have, in a very short period of time, adjusted their schedules to make it here to this event. I want to thank you for being here. I want to thank you for sharing your knowledge and working with us for the better development of a strategic relationship that will bring benefit to both our countries. It's a very exciting time to be living here in Saudi Arabia nowadays. Saudi Arabia is going through a major transformation, and for the entrepreneurship space, for the SME space, it's specifically very interesting and very exciting. And the reason that it is so interesting and so exciting and so inspiring is because a year ago, there was little emphasis on enabling the private sector. So the 2030 vision not only now is focusing on the private sector, it wants to make the private sector the main engine of growth for Saudi Arabia. And this is actually not something new, because actually Saudi Arabia was dependent on the private sector before the oil boom. So let me just give a quick lesson in history so that our American friends and our young Saudis who did not really witness that period get a better understanding of how things were and how things, inshallah, will be. Before the oil boom, we didn't have big government. We had actually a very small government. Before the oil boom, we didn't have the Aramcos and the Sabics and the Ma'adins and the big corporates, Saudi corporates. So most Saudis actually earned their living from being entrepreneurs. And, it's true, many of the businesses were very traditional. The merchant in his small trade, the fisherman in his small boat, the farmer in his small farm, and so forth. Yet they were all entrepreneurs. Then came oil, and oil brought many benefits. But one of the negatives of oil was that a dependency grew on government. So we were looking to government to provide jobs, to provide free health care, free education. All things became driven by government in Saudi Arabia, and the economy, the government became the major driver of the economy in Saudi Arabia for the last 50 years or so. But this was not sustainable. It has not been sustainable in any country. And we knew one day we will have to go back to the normal model of the private sector leading the economy. And the private sector, guess what? In most countries is mainly made of SMEs, small and medium-sized enterprises. In Saudi Arabia, SMEs represent 99.7% of total enterprises. And as such, it is expected that SMEs should have a major contribution to the economy. Today, we represent in total as private sector 40% of GDP. 20% comes from large corporations and 20% comes from SMEs. We have a target in Vision 2030 to raise that 20% from SMEs to 35%, and also to raise total GDP contribution from the private sector to 65%. But even that 35%, which is a target for us, is a low target if we benchmark it against other countries. So as an example, the European Union today, not in 2030, the contribution from SMEs to the GDP is at 58%. Contribution to manpower or employment is 67%. We are at 53% today in employment contribution, which is not too bad, but we can take that much further. Korea, for example, is at 88% today, contribution to employment. So there is a lot that SMEs can contribute to employment, that they can contribute to GDP, that they can contribute to innovation, that they can contribute to poverty alleviation, that they can contribute to female empowerment. One of the positive news we heard recently came from the Babson Entrepreneurship Monitor, which for the first time was published when Saudi Arabia recently joined. So Saudi Arabia for the first time became part of the countries that were covered under the report. And one of the items in the report was refreshing and very promising in terms of lady empowerment, was that last year, 38.4% of all startups in Saudi Arabia were owned by ladies. So this is a very positive indication for things to come. Globally, entrepreneurship has been a great empowerer for ladies, and we think in Saudi Arabia it will be very much so. The theme today is about innovation. And as you know, SMEs and especially startups are very important players in innovation. Many of the large corporates who are known to be innovative did not grow to the size they are just granularly. They actually, a lot of them grew by acquiring small companies that are innovative. So you can grow by acquisition, or you can grow, by internally developing your R&D and your innovation. A lot of those companies have grown by acquiring the more agile, innovative, flexible SMEs that exist there. And a lot of the disruptions we see today, the Ubers of this world, the Kareems of this world, and so forth, they are actually, or they were actually, when they created these disruptions were startups and were SMEs. So supporting SMEs, developing SMEs, goes hand in hand with actually creating better innovation in Saudi Arabia. And this is why the organizers of this event, they made sure that the SME Authority and SMEs have a role to play and are part of the discussion that we have today. So we have 3 workshops now. One is on innovation, one is on entrepreneurship, and one is on funding solutions for entrepreneurship and SMEs. I welcome you all to join one of these parallel sessions, and I look forward to seeing you during the break. Thank you.
We should head now to building 19. Just a final note, we will have the final session here, back again here at 4:45 for the closing remarks from both our chair and co-chairs. That includes His Highness Dr. Turki Al Saud and Dr. Rafael Raif at 4:45 back in this auditorium. Thank you.